而家我哋有請美國加州大學洛杉磯分校中西方醫學中心主任許家傑教授同我哋分享一下新世紀嘅中西醫藥結合美國的角度。有請許教授。
各位專家同仁，同埋各位這個醫管局啊，同埋科技創新科技請我嚟，今日有機會能夠同你哋分享下我響美國46、7年嘅中西醫結合之路。咁樣咧就我咧一陣間就會用英文講嘅，因為就去咗嗰度幾十年咧，就英文講得比較容易啲嘅。我今年1月咧，宋校長咧就同埋胡院長咧嚟訪問我哋 UCLA， 即係做咗結合醫學20幾年嘅經驗。咁咧就當然咧，我哋係好少即係照本經營咁咧，但係就做咗20幾年咧，都有啲體會。咁我就希望將我依40幾年嘅經驗咧，就同大家分享一下。咁黃國強部長咧，佢2010年嚟咧就咁我哋就大家討論下，即係美國同中國點樣去合作，去能夠即係大家互相交流，點樣能夠再利用雙方嘅強勢strength， 能夠咧就好好地提高個醫療嘅系統。咁我就咁多年咧，由1992年開始咧就開始比較盡量去提出嚟呢個中西結合嘅好處。咁一路就差唔多20幾年咧，就喺唔同嘅世界嘅結合中醫大會咧，就討論點解要大家多啲collaboration 同埋咧點解要將中西醫結合，除咗喺臨床咧，仲要去帶去呢個社區。咁So I'm going to kind of start, talking about this in English now. So last year in Korea, and obviously Vivian was there too. We kind of discussed in Taiwan how to put Western medicine and traditional medicine together, and obviously Taiwan is also struggling with sort of having the two systems together, but then how do you put it together so that it would improve healthcare? And then in May this year, the WHO also have another meeting to talk about how to incorporate traditional medicine into national health systems. So again, it's very interesting to look at how different countries have different ways of doing it. Obviously, China, I think China is a major leader, having been doing integrated medicine for the last 60 years. And I kind of want to share with you what I've learned from them over the years. So Margaret Chan obviously has been a very strong supporter of this work. And she visited us in 1999 and actually brought me back to Hong Kong, as part of UGC committee to kind of look at how Chinese medicine can be brought into the 8 universities in Hong Kong. And I think that as China is going to look at Chinese medicine as part of the soft power development for the world, so I think it would be a very good opportunity for Chinese medicine and integrated medicine in the coming decades. So a little bit of the history for myself. I went to UCLA to study chemistry, and my idea was to find a new drug from the herbal pharmacopoeia. But this interaction between China and the West shaped my whole career the last 46 years at UCLA. Because I turned from just being someone who wanted to develop a drug. I mean, obviously, I trained as an internist, as a clinical pharmacologist, but realistically, acupuncture analgesia introduced me to sort of a whole, what China have done, because China has been shielded from all of us, at least for me, until I saw acupuncture analgesia on TV. And so it was my dream at that time that, well, I would use UCLA as a platform for me to learn what I can about how the West approach health and disease, but at the same time spend my spare time to learn from many of the experts from China who has started integrative medicine since 1955. And so I learned acupuncture back in 1972-3 in Hong Kong. And so I kept this as a hobby. And during my training, I sort of talk about it, but I would not dare to say too much about it until I'm ready. So David Eisenberg, obviously, is a major figure in the United States for sort of also promoting integration of Chinese and Western medicine, or integrated medicine. And he spent 3 years at UCLA. So the two of us at the ball, we were just talking about a dream of building something. And so he wrote this book, and Encounter with Qi. And at that time, it probably introduced about 10 years of my thinking about how the two medicines can be put together. But I didn't think at that time I was ready until 1993. I was ready a little bit earlier than that, but 1993, when David Eisenberg published his paper in New England Journal talking about unconventional medicine in the United States, I established the Center for East-West Medicine. So there was, David, with me back in 2010. But I was his attending in medicine and in clinical pharmacology. So back in the early 70s, I already have read most of the experts that I have videotaped. I had a project, a visual history project, that I have interviewed more than those people that I have sort of displayed here, because each one of them are my friend and my teacher. So I would say that what I'm doing now, what I'm talking about, is a summation of what I've learned from many of them. And in 1992, I, as a professor in internal medicine at UCLA, invited 國醫大師啊，國醫大師等 Tito. So he spent 3 weeks with me. He stayed at my home, and we just talk, and then just learn from him about what is really the spirit of Chinese medicine, 人心人術, okay? And he obviously is not only a great physician, but he's a great historian as well. But anyway, these are all the people that have come through UCLA. And for those of you who really want to learn and get into integrated medicine, if you are trained in Western medicine, I don't know how many of you are trained in Western medicine, these are the people that you should read, because you should, obviously, it's not easy to learn. When I first learned it, you have to learn how to read abbreviated Chinese, about Chinese medicine, about Western medicine, about modern science, and try to put the two together. But these are the people. This is the person who did the cataract surgery from Mao Zedong, and obviously I'm building a program on East-West ophthalmology, because I think there's a lot in every discipline. There are now 40-some disciplines of integrated medicine in China. And obviously, many of you now know about Tu Youyou's work. I read about her work in the late 70s, and I interviewed her, in 2007. And obviously, now everyone knows about her work on artemisinin, Qinghoushou. And obviously, Tommy, actually, the last 15, 20 years, is moving into applying sort of modern scientific approach to study herbal formula. But what I'm going to talk about basically is sort of how I have transformed myself from being in chemistry to be a scientist, clinical investigator, a drug developer, because I basically, when I try to do this work, I know that at UCLA, I need to build up my credentials, both clinically and also scientifically. I need to be sure that I can understand everything that everyone is going to criticizing about Chinese medicine. And it's very important for me to be able to discuss it and also explain it. So in 1992, I was ready. So in the San Francisco conference, I talk about how Chinese medicine and Western medicine are complementing each other. Each have their respective strength and weakness. And by combining their strength, many clinical problems can be solved. So a lot of people are still waiting for the next drug to come by to solve a problem. But if you know how to put the two medicines together, many problems can be ameliorated. You can add value to most problems. But obviously, you need to do the right kind of research. And I'll talk about what is the right kind of research, because I think that a lot of research are not going to be as useful. And so over the last 20 years, I kind of moved from doing the traditional Western type of research, and obviously I've done Wang Lin Shou research, Jin Gong Chun, this type of research, endorphins and so on. But as I move on, I try to sort of look at acupuncture, I look at Tai Chi, I look at even translation and terminology, because each one of these areas are very, very important for me to kind of convince myself. And then I kind of talk about the need to take care of sort of more patients, because see, Chinese medicine is based on solving clinical problems. And unless you build a clinic at a place like UCLA, and then you demonstrate to people how problem can be solved at the bedside. And that's the best site to get doctors to learn. So over the last 20 years, we now have trained many, many physicians and medical students. And also research doesn't have to be sort of very sophisticated. We did a very simple study, just to teach patients how to massage Wu Yam, okay? Obviously, perineal pressure. And it was very successful. Talk about GI. Just massaging Wu Yam, you can take care of constipation, okay? We published it we did a good clinical trial. We published in General Internal Medicine, and it was quoted throughout, it was one of the most quoted papers in General Internal Medicine. So another area that we work on is also translation, because how can you translate Chinese medicine for the Western world? Because to do that, you need a team of people. It's not just one or two or three people. You need people who know both medicine, both language, modern science, and be able to translate it, at the level for different, audience. So it's not an easy topic to do. And one of the area that I also work on is the idea about person-centered medicine. And I will going to talk about a little bit more, because the person-centered medicine is sort of a catchy term in both sort of the United States in Western medicine, but then what is the person-centered medicine in Chinese medicine? Even the same term has different meaning, and how the two can be put together. So we wrote a paper about that as well. So in 1993, I established the Center for East-West Medicine. And rather than being just a research institute, we want to basically build a clinical model to blend the best of Chinese and Western medicine to provide health care that is safe, effective, affordable, and accessible for people, families, and communities. Because to see, the idea earlier on is that, well, let's build a new medicine. What is the new medicine for? The new medicine is built to help the next person, but also to make it affordable for society to benefit from this new health model. So that's why establishing a clinic at UCLA has been my clinical laboratory. So it was not easy because at that time UCLA, thought that I was doing quackery, right? But and this is the bastion of modern Western medicine. But I had the support, no money. I raised every single dime to build this center. It's not national policy. It's not university policy. It's just a dream to build sort of a new medicine, a new medical model. So my mentor, Dean Melanchthon, was the longest reigning dean in the United States to build UCLA from a new medical school to become one of the top institutions in healthcare. And I think it's very important that he talked about synergistic application of principles originating in Eastern and Western civilization. See, it's not West examining East, because all along, I think it's West examining East. It's very important for people to understand that the Eastern way of thinking and the Western way of thinking are somewhat different, but it can be put together, and depending on from what perspective you look at and what situation that you need to deal with, both are going to be useful. So I didn't get any money, but I get the protection. But I still was attacked, many years, throughout. So what do I think is happening? Okay, and I will talk about why this is the perfect timing for Chinese way of healing tradition would become part of the new sort of a redeveloped model of healthcare. Because the 20th century is based on using the model of acute crisis care. And a lot of money, a lot of technology, a lot of brain power was put into solving many of these problems. The very success of this problem now lead to people who live to old age. And then you talk about chronic diseases, which are consuming the majority of the money. And obviously, in the United States, we recognize the value of prevention. We talk about wellness, we talk about self-care, we want to build primary care. But the money has not gone along with it. And obviously, without a lot of money, so a lot of the sort of manpower and the brain power are not shifted that way. But the patients are always ahead of the system that are trying to adapt. And in 1997, in the first World Congress of Integrated Medicine in Beijing, I already talked about the U.S. healthcare system is in crisis. In year 2000, I wrote a paper at the WHO saying that this is happening, and now it's 15 years later, okay? It's even worsening. And I think this is not just the U.S. The U.S. is going to go first. We spend 18% of GDP already. It's going to be 20% GDP, $4 trillion. And the richest country cannot sustain, with what we are doing. That's why Obama, when he get on board, he wants to get healthcare reform, but it's not going to be easy. And the money is always very important. So PricewaterhouseCoopers wrote a report, 2005, about HealthCast 2020, creating a sustainable future. So it says in the executive summary, the current healthcare system of nations around the world will be unsustainable if unchanged over the next 15 years. Increasing demand with aging of society, rising cost, and the wrong incentives overwhelm health systems and creating massive financial burdens for individual countries and devastating health problems for the individual who live in them. So from learning about the mechanism of acupuncture to herbal drug development, I moved to not just from the clinical care, but more or less in public health. So for the last 10 years, I've groomed people in public health to recognize that you need to start thinking about how to put together the new healthcare workforce. So in the United States, obviously, in many of the academic health centers, there are physicians who have not been satisfied with the reductionistic model of Western medicine, taking up different body parts with different specialists. We are more going back to understanding about the whole. They're fascinated by basically, the holistic, nature of Chinese medicine, except that China has Western medicalized Chinese medicine, and I think that it would be very interesting to see how China would move, back into holistic medicine as they bring Chinese medicine back into public health, into community health, into primary care. So at UCLA, actually, we have been, over the last, I would say 20 years, we have been kind of working in different aspects of integrated medicine. And we are the one that basically focus on how to blend Chinese medicine with Western medicine. And I'm going to talk a little bit just about our clinical model and what we're trying to do in educating, our students and also people. But integrated medicine, at least in the United States, emphasize about person-centered care, individualized approach, but not just like personalized medicine that you have to use sophisticated testing. In patient-centered care, meaning knowing the person with a problem, learning about their lifestyle, and obviously being politically correct, utilize all appropriate therapeutic modalities, conventional and unconventional, leveraging the body's ability to heal itself through self-care, but also by intervention as well. So obviously it's very important that people keep talking about placebo. But placebo response is what the body gets enhanced to heal. So that even within the United States, there are different clinical models in integrated medicine. There are models of a physician who is sympathetic to or knowledgeable or being aware of other sort of modalities. So it's like an international buffet. I think that a lot of patients are quarterbacking themselves, right, to get different type of health care. What I try to create is that, I would say, what would be appropriate, even good Western medicine in quarterbacking? So that's why I spend many of my years to just, through internal medicine, clinical pharmacology, geriatrics, how do you integrate Western medicine? How do you quarterback the use of Western medicine? But then, how do you incorporate things like Chinese medicine? How can you incorporate so that it enhance, its efficacy, effectiveness, decrease the risk, and decrease the cost? So it's very important to basically figure out how to produce a gourmet dinner with the best ingredients. So I established a clinic, and the clinic has been the clinic of last resort at UCLA. So at UCLA, we have more than 500 physicians, specialists from different disciplines who refer to us. They don't know what else to do. So it's a clinic of last resort. So they have given me a lot of opportunity to try to develop this model, which I will share with you, because most of these patients already exhausted conventional treatments, state-of-art. I mean, not all of these treatments are evidence-based, but it's been tried, and most of these patients are intolerant of medications, of surgery, and most of these patients really don't even know what this is all about, okay? So by virtue of us who know both medicine, because over the years I have trained people with fellowships, our residents are trained, so that we have sort of one way of looking at the forest, another way of looking at the trees. Because right now there are too many ways to look at patients from the roots and the branches. So you kind of lose sight. Too many diseases being treated by too many people. So what is important is to train enough people who know how to put the two together and then have the system developed to allow most problems to be solved in this system, rather than people navigating to see different type of practitioners. So this is actually traditional of good Western medicine with Sir William Osler, who built modern Western medicine. It's much more important to know what sort of a patient has a disease than what sort of a disease a patient has. So we have a whole person approach. We make sure that, obviously I'm biased, to make sure that Western medicine should assess the patient, to make sure that we're not missing anything, that for sure we know that Western medicine can do well. Even when they think they can do well, knowing what Chinese medicine can provide, I sometimes, would make sure that, like for some, if you look at up to date and look at this is the best, even a lot of the best that Western can do may not be the best if you know the combined East-West, system. So obviously we took a very comprehensive history. That's why we try to teach our students to take a history, incorporating what Chinese medicine allow you to understand the whole pattern. Not patterns for a particular disease, but a pattern for the whole patient. Because I really think that patients come to us with 10 different diseases. If you use the same old model of treating different disease, even sub-pattern, what are you going to do? So anyway, very, very important to look at the person. If you don't take care of the person and teach them what they should do and what they should not do, you optimize their social environment to the best possible way, and then you try to teach them how to sleep, how to exercise, how to dress, how not to walk barefoot, and how to eat. How to eat using 辩证论吃, okay? So very, very important for us, because oftentimes we always think about every disease we just use herbal medicine, okay? In the United States, we are not using as much herbal medicine because we worry about quality control. But I personally think that Chinese herbal medicine is going to be a untapped greatest gift of Chinese medicine to the world. But, for the world to accept it, you need to have more people to understand what really is the theoretical construct of Chinese medicine. Because I think that Chinese medicine is very, very important in the construct of the theory. It's a theory to guide the practice of many of the approaches to treat. So in our clinic, education is a very major component of our care. We teach people. That's why we don't use the terminology to get people confused. When we teach our students, we don't just use yin-yang 5 elements. Yeah, for our fellows, we do that. But for people, we can talk about balance. We can talk about flow. We can talk about sort of a functional reserve. And we basically teach our patient how to do self-massage of acupoints. Acupuncture is actually, in the United States, very, very popular. It's already getting mainstream. It's very, very useful. It's not just used to treat pain. It's not just used to treat, a stroke rehab. It can be used to treat many, many problems. And that, but again, you don't even need to use needles. The whole idea is the body will tell you when you are sick. It will manifest itself in areas in the body that you just need to stimulate, right? Especially when it's early. Anyway, medications, whether it's food, or actually I would say food can be medicine too, right? And then supplement, when it's used inappropriately, can be poison, but if it's used appropriately, it can be good medicine. And Western medicine, when you use a pattern diagnosis and you understand the pharmacology of the drug, you can actually use it to treat the Chinese pattern as well. So then you make a Western drug to be a Chinese drug. So our model is a whole person assessment, and then we educate the patient about, as I said, nutrition, stress management, and our idea about stress is not just psychosocial stress, which is obviously the most important, but it could be mechanical stress, it could be chemical stress, it could be climateric stress, anything that the body cannot adapt to the change. And that's a very, very useful Chinese concept, okay? But again, most people don't recognize that researchers in modern medicine actually has already a lot of theoretical construct to explain Chinese medicine. So that's why in our teaching, we use what we know about both models, including what China have done in terms of modernized TCM, because there's a big gulf, a big gap because of language. And not enough people in the West who know how to read Chinese, and even the TCM practitioners in the US, many of them are not modernized medicine, modern medicine, and also modern science trained. So I think it's very important for all of us, in different fields within medicine, but also outside of medicine, to work together to try to bridge the gap. So the idea about prevention is also very important in our conceptual framework. And this is how I kind of see how CAM, including Chinese medicine and Western medicine, can be put together at different sort of apart from health, great health, all the way to sort of end-stage palliative care. And I think important for people to try to see when to use what, how using the other would not be wasteful, and how do you use it to kind of increase efficacy or decrease toxicity. So in the United States, integrative medicine is led by MDs, but obviously the other practitioners also think that they're doing integrative medicine, but at least for us in Western medicine who recognize the limitation of Western medicine and sort of bring in the other approaches to have a more comprehensive approach to help patients solve their problems. So it's pushed by the consumer, and that whereas I think in the United States, the amount of money put into this area is still very small. China has been doing it for 60 years. It's a major, government initiative, and I'm, obviously very, very optimistic that China may become the country that will, bring this into a very, a major model for the world. Now, I also wrote a paper about how best to research. I give a whole lecture on this in Shanghai and also in Taiwan. See, we always talk about evidence-based medicine, which is really important. But I think that unless you use the right research methodology, okay, all you are going to do is keep duplicating it, and then Cochrane Review will keep saying that, well, it's poor methodology and so on and so forth. It's very important, as I said, in Taiwan, I think 3-4 years ago, imperative that researchers in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, where there's extensive traditional medicine, IM, research infrastructure and funding, to play a role in the development of whole system research, effectiveness of whole medical systems, more person-centered type of approach. And obviously, the United States just put some money into PCORI, Person-Centered Research Outcome Institute. But again, their model is still the Western notion of person-centered medicine. So the other area is really dissemination. And that's where I'm at right now. I think that I already have an inkling of what this new health model ought to be, and I apply it at UCLA. I've trained people. We are setting up different clinics, and I plan to move into different specialties, but most importantly is to bring it to primary care. But primary care is not just like in the community clinics. Primary care to me eventually is to bring to the home. Use technology to bring to the home, most likely to women, hopefully women before they actually conceive, but also take the work also, to younger people as well, just because a lot of the seeds of ill health already planted for kids already in childhood, but also right now people are thinking about a lot of the seeds of ill health are planted before conception. So we have been sort of since 1995, I started our course, an elective course for med students first year, and then we started the fourth year in 1996, and my faculty right now are my former fourth-year students, 12, 13 years ago. So we also, in 1999, set up a fellowship, a 2-year fellowship, to train doctors over 2 years how to do integrated medicine. And in the United States, there is a board certification for physicians in internal medicine and also family medicine to take an exam to be board certified in integrated medicine. We have also trained sort of residents, not just within UCLA or teaching hospitals, but also around the country, but also from abroad as well. We have people coming from Poland, from England, and but more importantly is to take our work actually to train people in the humanities, in anthropology, in philosophy, in history, and also train people with MBA and public health, but also to train people in the public so that they have a good understanding of what really is at risk. So research needs to be continued, but the right kind of research. Clinic, there will be never going to be enough clinical people to take care of the problems that will be confronting us. And it's very, very important for every sector, from the healthcare sector to government, nonprofit, foundations, business. I think business has to get into this, particularly in the United States. GM went bankrupt. GM went bankrupt because the healthcare budget for healthcare was $5.6 billion before they went kaput, okay? For each car that they sell, they have to add $1,500. So in a sense, the impetus for change, the impetus for UCLA to even recognize our value is because UCLA is too expensive for an insurance company. For UCLA to be included in many of the schemes for city of LA, they have to become much more cost effective. So we become much more important. So I have my view about integrated medicine, and Stanford interviewed me. But my first dream already had been achieved. It took me first 20-some years to figure out what to do, the last 20-some years to test out the model, and right now I'm thinking about global dissemination. But again, it should not be a clinical model, because I really think that health needs to be sort of defined in a much more expansive way. You need to have good environment, a healing environment. You need to basically develop good relationship between the practitioner and also the patient. And the most importantly is to the money people, the policy people. How do you redistribute the money that's spent on high-tech, invasive, glamorous crisis intervention to low-tech, low-cost prevention and early disease recognition? So in terms of global dissemination, what I've done is that when Wang Guoqiang, 部长 came to UCLA, I shared with him, a paper that I wrote for the 千年计划, because I didn't go at that time, but I said, well, this is what I think, China, can consider, how they can build a better healthcare sort of system. But the most important thing is to bring integrated medicine to the bedside. To the community, not to the bedside. And that, so when I talk about this and I discuss with the people in Shanghai, the health bureau, they sort of pick up on it and they've been discussing it. So now there's a big project going on, training integrated medicine, training Chinese medicine for 12,000 community-based clinicians and public health workers in Shanghai, the entire Shanghai. So right now, the second group teaching has been finished. There is an exam going on. So they basically mandated 12,000 Western-trained physicians and public health people and rural health medics to learn over 6 months Chinese medicine. they have to do homework, they have to take an exam, and their unit have to give them time to do it. So that's policy. That's, obviously, I would never be able to do anything like that, in the United States. I cannot even attract, as many fellows as I would like. But so we are now working on, assessment. How do you assess, this very important project that they are embarking on? So my understanding is that Zhejiang and also, Guangdong, are also making sure that Chinese medicine is going to be, a very important component of primary care. So I hope that I kind of give you a glimpse of some of my my perspective about different aspects of it. But I think most importantly, this work is vital for healthcare for the world, and that's very, very important for all of us to come together and contribute, because individually there's never going to be, because just in the area of drug development, herbal development, I think besides policy, you need to get good clinical people, and I now really trying to figure out how to kind of go back to herbal medicine. I was involved in 1994, what to do with herbal medicine in the United States. But I know that the timing is now more ready, because it took 20 years for now 2 herbal products to be approved by the FDA in the United States. Okay? And it took too long for Professor Jian Yongqi's herbal combination to be approved. It takes too much money. And I think that much more important is to do appropriate quality control and monitoring, because in China or Korea, you're already using it. Use what is being used right now, set up the system, and try to learn from what is actually happening right now. Because it took too long to do any RCT clinical trial. The drug company has the money to do it, but it is going to be too much money and too long. I will be long gone, but I hope that what I talk about today, give some of you some food for thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor 許，多謝晒許教授，請回座。